Hi everyone, I'm Naïma. Welcome back to my channel. This video is all about this new phase that I find myself in my long COVID recovery. I've been reflecting a lot over the last few weeks and I felt a little bit unsettled, I've realised. Even though I'm improving every month, every week, every day, I'm still struggling to come to terms with what has happened over the last few years. It's almost like you're in the shock period of the recovery, you're trying to come to terms, you restructure your entire life, and then once things start to stabilise, it's this new phase where you're not living the old life that you had, but you're still not clear on what this new life is. A year ago, all I wanted was any noticeable improvement in my day-to-day life. And now it's here, I've realized the uphill battle that still remains. I promised myself that I would be completely honest about my long COVID recovery and share the highs as well as the lows. And this video is about the challenges that come about when you start to move towards acceptance, and how in some ways it's so much easier to be in denial. In the last few weeks, I've had a few setbacks. They've not been as all-encompassing as they used to be. I've not been completely bedbound as I would have been a few months ago, but they've still been really difficult. Given the subtlety of the setbacks, it's been challenging not knowing what has caused it. I used to be able to do so little that whenever I would veer off from my daily routine, I would have a setback. Right now, it's much more subtle. It can be an accumulation of stress over a period of weeks. It can be a week where I've socialized too much or gone for too long of a walk. Before I was so hyper aware, and now I'm unaware that when I have a setback, it catches me completely off guard. And this can be very emotionally draining. A big part of this challenge has been starting to realize that even though I'm on an upward trajectory, there are still more bad days to come. When I was in denial, I could kid myself that every bad day would be the last. As I move towards acceptance, I have to accept how long COVID will be and the uncertainty that comes with that. If acceptance is acknowledgement of this issue and denial is refusing to acknowledge the issue, it's much easier not to acknowledge how life-changing and potentially devastating of an event long COVID can be. When you begin to acknowledge the issue, you have to take the time to restructure your life, to regroup, and to completely change or get rid of any expectations that you had before getting ill. As I always do when I'm struggling to really drill down into an issue, I did a little bit of research, and the path to acceptance is a long one. It's one that will go beyond a full recovery. But just like recovery, it's not linear, and I've learned that I'm not quite at acceptance yet. We tend to go through the following cycle. The first phase is denial. So at this time, I was thinking, this can't be. These symptoms aren't real. When I wake up, this will be gone, or this won't be long term. Phase 2 was more anger. Why would this happen to me? No one understands this. And phase 3 was depression. This is where I withdrew from the people around me. I felt trapped. Started thinking that this was hopeless, that I was never going to improve. And phase 4 was around bargaining, thinking, let's focus on the things that I can control, then maybe I can be better equipped for what's to come. And the final phase is acceptance. This is going to be okay, and it's not necessarily being happy with what's happened, but it's recognizing this new reality and thinking, this happened, I can manage. And when I started to look into this, I realized that I'm not quite at the acceptance phase, and I do get glimmers when I think I can manage and this is okay, this happened to me, but I'm still not feeling that day to day. I still get flashes of anger and flashes of moments where I can't believe this has happened. I still sometimes find it easier to withdraw than to think, this happened to me and I'm going to be okay. These 5 stages are adapted from the Kubler-Ross model on the 5 stages of grief. And there are some issues with this model, definitely, as it raises certain questions around how much we as humans need to be comforted when we go through a life-changing event, and how much we seek to find patterns and tell ourselves stories to try to make sense of this chaotic world that we live in. Similarly, this model really implies that we go through a linear phase of progress from one stage to the next, moving from stage 1 of denial all the way to 5 of acceptance. But it's definitely not been that simple for me personally. I've gone through all of the different emotions. I found it quite comforting to understand that there are ways to make sense of this really confusing process. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to try to settle back into some of my routines. During my morning routines, I've been trying to meditate, doing breathing exercises, and going for some short walks and having cold showers to try and recenter myself. And in the evenings, I try to journal, get away from screens, and read as well. So these are all the things that I'm trying to do to try and regroup in this new phase of recovery. I'd love to know from you what you do to get yourself feeling centered again when you're coming to terms with a big event like this one. I wanted to be honest about how difficult this process can be, even as you start to see some improvements. No matter how far you are in your recovery, it takes a lot to come to terms with these changes. If you're new here and you'd like to hear more about my long COVID story, I have a recent video where I talk about the timeline from the shock of the illness all the way up until now, 2 years in. I'll see you in my next video. Thank you for watching.